the meeting to order. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance read tonight by Rebecca Brooks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Becky. Oh, good news, Mr. Hilton.
All right, thank you, President Lewis. Trustees, good evening. Give me just a second here to bring up tonight's good news. All right. Here we go, trustees. So first up tonight, I just wanted to let you know and the community know that it is the season for our holiday concert series, and you can see up on the screens we have a number of performances coming up from our orchestras at the middle school to our choirs to our high school symphony band and our middle school bands as well. And we'll do those here at the high school, as well as we'll take some time out at Adrian College. You can find this information on our Facebook page. If you've ever been to any of these concerts, you know just how superb they actually are and fun to attend. So I wanted to share those with you as well as the community. Again, you can find them on our Facebook page. Next up this evening, I have an introduction to make, and it's of our newest team member, Mrs. Darcy Francoeur, who is here this evening. She is our new Director of Business Services. So Darcy, come on up to the podium. We won't embarrass you too much here, but I am going to say a few things. Trustees, you know this, but because I've said it before, but it's worth saying again. Mrs. Francoeur brings years of accomplished public school finance leadership to our school district, and throughout her career she's managed in a number of different places, multi-million-dollar budgets, while leading strategic financial operations for school systems. Her experience includes operations from overseeing budgets to debt management to audits to ensuring compliance with state and federal regulations, and the list goes on and on. So I just wanted to recognize Darcy this evening. Today is day 6 for her. So Darcy, we're really excited that you're here, and welcome to the Tecumseh Public Schools.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming up.
Oh, I think everybody would like to at least shake your hands, meet you, so if you come around this way.
Okay, trustees, moving on. Next up tonight, I actually invited Mr. Zajac, who's going to come up to the podium for tonight's fall sports report. Mr. Zajac. Oops, I got to get your, hang on.
It's pretty sophisticated with glasses.
You know, it's not fun getting old. I'm not that old yet.
Wow. Who are you telling that to?
I bought these about 5 months ago, and it's really weird. I'm still getting used to it, so I'm trying to copy you. But thanks for having me. Appreciate being here. You guys should all have this. I think there's a handout there with all the information out here. I'm not going to go over every sport just because it takes a lot of time, and I know you guys have better things to do than talk about our sports individually. But I do want to talk about a few things. Our overall student GPA was 3.38 this year for the high school. Middle school was 3.42, and every year I'm just astounded by how that grows and what it stays at. You know, I think it's awesome that our kids can juggle school, athletics, social life, work, home life, everything that goes into that. It just makes me really proud of what our kids are doing. Our football, volleyball, and girls golf team all earned Team Academic All-State, which again, it's just a privilege to work with these kids and shows how hard they work to kind of be a student athlete, not just an athlete, but a student athlete. We did have 256 student athletes compete at the high school and 100 compete at the middle school for a total of 356 kids. That's in our fall season. We're in the winter season now, so our fall is complete. This is our winter season starting, so it's a good number of kids that we have. We had 1 SEC, 1 district, and 1 regional championship. That was volleyball. We had 4 kids in swim and 1 boy in cross country qualify for the individual state meet or respective state meets. Morgan Skelton, our volleyball coach, again, was regional coach of the year, county coach of the year, and back-to-back SEC coach of the year. So she's had a lot of success, and really happy to have her back. She's a former alumni. My first year here, Greg's last year, was her senior year. So it's kind of nice to get our alumni back coaching. And we have quite a few of them, so it's pretty awesome to have our kids come back and be part of our community again. I think it speaks volumes about what we do here and bring those kids back. So it's pretty awesome. But I'll let you guys go through this. If you have any questions about the teams, please let me know. Like I said, I'm not going to go through each individual sport just because that's kind of redundant and you guys have better things to do than listen to me talk about that. On the last page you can see is our awards. So if you look at that back page, it's a white sheet of paper. It has all of our kids' awards. So for every single sport, it'll tell you what they won, what they're awarded, either all SEC, all state, all county, all region. Kind of goes through their successes. So and everything, and there's still a couple things out. For volleyball and a couple other sports that just finished a couple weeks ago. So some things are still not done yet, not complete, but majority of it is. You guys have any questions for me? No? All right. Thanks guys.
John.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Trustee Lewis, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, public comment. In accordance with the Open Meeting Act of 1986, the board provides opportunity for citizen input during the public comment. Because agendas are full, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The board will listen, take comments and questions under advisement, and not respond at this time. The presiding officer will refer questions to the superintendent for research and response. Do we have any public comment tonight?
I'm much shorter.
Everybody.
Good evening. My name is Amber Gray. I have 2 kids in our swim program, and so I'm just here to express my support for the swim program as I saw that it was on the agenda for discussion tonight. I'm not sure how many of you have seen the area pools that we swim against, notably Dundee, Jackson, Milan. The beautiful 8-lane pools, you know, digital LED scoreboards. We're not asking for that, right? We know that that's not something in the cards for Tecumseh. We haven't asked for that. What we're asking for is a pool. Doesn't have to be the best pool. The community did show support for the pool in that last vote that finally did pass, right? That had the pool in it. So I think our community does support it. Our swim program has started to rebuild, right? After I think some mismanagement when my kids were little, right? We had some pool directors that maybe didn't keep up, but with Sarah Eubanks and Coach Ben and Coach Betsy and Joshina and Coach Keyser in the middle school, they have really done a nice job trying to rebuild our swim program despite all the problems with the pool. Our boys team won the SMIZL, it's Southeastern Michigan Independent Swim League. They won the SMIZL relay meet last year, which was amazing, given the tough time that we've had. So the program is on the upswing. And so I guess I would just ask that if you determine, if it is determined that our current pool is beyond repair based on, what was presented at the last meeting, that we get creative and we figure out, can we partner with the YMCA? Can we partner with Clinton schools? Is there a way to move forward and allow this community to still have a pool? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment?
Hard act to follow. I'm Patrick Gray. I also have 2 students in swimming. I spoke to you at the last meeting. I won't repeat all the things that I said, but I will repeat that I'm thanking you for the time that you're putting into this, the thought that you're putting into this, the consideration. I know it's tough to make these decisions. In a position of leadership like you're in, sometimes you have to make really hard decisions, and sometimes you have to figure out ways to get creative to do the right thing. Ultimately, if we're doing the right thing at the end of the day for the right reasons, and we're doing it in the right way, we're all winners. Remember that there's a difference between the value of something and the cost of it. This is obviously a very expensive thing, and it doesn't necessarily bring in money, but it brings in something very valuable. And I think that was what I was really trying to express to you in the last meeting. You saw a great deal of support here in the last meeting, not so much this week, and I don't believe that that's on purpose. We didn't know that there was going to be a meeting tonight until really today. So not that you've done a bad job making notifications, I'm just saying that you don't see the crowd behind me today that you saw before. Don't forget about that crowd. This program helps make well-rounded kids. I had on that last time. I hope that you remember that. It helps them learn about leadership. It helps them learn about grit, overcoming challenges. These are all things that are super important. Obviously, education's about math, science, reading, and all these other really important things, but would you want to make a really well-rounded human? This is part of it too. And so forgetting that is a misstep. So I want to just reiterate those things to you all. Again, thank you for the time that you're putting in here today. Thank you, and I really do appreciate the leadership, and I just want you to know that I know it's a tough decision, but I hope that you get creative as well. If this isn't going to work out with the current pool, we all understand that we want our kids to be safe. But if there is a path forward, then let's get there. If we can get there in the pool building that we're in right now, let's do it. But if we can't, let's get there in another way. Thank you.
I don't have anything to say. I just got off a letter of intent to sue. It's for your employees searching my home and kidnapping my kids.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right. Revisions of our approval of the agenda. Is there any revisions of tonight's agenda? No? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I move to approve the agenda as presented for tonight's meeting, December 8th, 2025.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda of today, December 8th, 2025. Roll call vote, trustee Brooks,
Aye.
trustee Davis. Aye. Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. On to schedule reports. Discussion items.
Discussion items.
Mr. Hilton.
Thank you, sir. First up tonight is a donation, trustees. I want to take a moment to publicly thank the Midwest Energy and Communications for their generous donation of $1,000 to our high school in recognition of some of our students who actually placed third in a recent esports competition. So the generosity of MEC really does help us to compete and supports our growth as an esports club. So again, many thanks to Midwest Energy and Communications. Any comment or question on that one?
Oh, that was awesome.
It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. It's pretty awesome.
Do we know what they played?
So, you know what, great question, Trustee Martin. I don't actually know the answer to that. It's a club that has been here and then not, and then here and then not, and so I fully intend to understand this more, and actually I want to recognize these,
Yeah, I mean, it
these
just seems
kids
like a cool
after
thing.
the
and
after the break.
you
It's
know,
pretty
knowing
cool.
What
Yeah,
what's out there for the students, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Next time we corner Mr. Zajac, he can tell you.
Yeah.
I bet.
Okay, hearing no other questions, moving on to Section 31AA funding. Trustees, I just want to circle back to this and to update you on 31AA, which as you know, provides resources for school safety and mental health. There isn't any new information that I have to share with you this evening, but I do believe it's worth repeating. Districts that accept 31AA funding must now agree to waive attorney-client privilege in the event of a mass casualty. The statute actually defines mass casualty very, very broadly. It's not just worst case scenario. This could be a bus accident. This could be a situation that exceeds local emergency response. It could be a number of different scenarios. The privilege waiver creates a lot of concern in that it's preemptive and indefinite, meaning we waive the right to attorney-client privilege in all aspects. So, many school districts and many school districts in Michigan have since taken steps and filed lawsuits challenging these conditions. No decisions have been made as of yet. The state of Michigan has since created an opt-in option for access to these funds, which I have actually done on behalf of the Tecumseh Public Schools. I did so because there is also an option to rescind our application when the courts issue their decision. If the courts rule favorably, we can continue with our application. If the courts rule unfavorably, we can rescind our application without question. I will have until December 30th to rescind our application, and we are expecting a decision from the courts by Friday, December 19th. Again, there isn't anything new here this evening, but I did want to put it back on for discussion and a vote, as Troon is now recommending that we pass a resolution that ratifies our opt-in with the directive to me to then rescind our application if the courts do rule unfavorably. I'll pause here for discussion.
It can be rescinded as late as the 30th,
Correct.
but what did you say about the 19th? Is that when the court?
That's when we're expecting a decision, yes.
Okay. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Well, the
They're
way this
under a
has
lot of
evolved,
pressure.
they're under a lot of pressure, and this, I've given you a number of different iterations of updates where this has changed, and it may very well change between now and then, but I will certainly keep you posted.
I mean, I think the course you're describing to sign in and then opt out if this is where it ends is the right course of action to take. Asking anyone to give up basic civil rights in exchange for funding our children's education seems like a real slap in the face to everybody, to be honest.
Should be criminal.
Sounds like extortion.
Yeah.
Right, and, it's a shame to think of a situation where the district doesn't have access to these funds and the students lose out. But it's really frightening to think of the exposure that the district, the staff and administration take on from, with respect to their livelihoods, their legal standing, just to come in and do their job, which again is educating our children, right? It really, I find the whole thing offensive. But I think this is the right course, this option to opt back out if this is where it lands is there. So I think we position ourselves to get the money if the stipulations are removed and withdraw if they're not. That seems reasonable.
Very good. Matt, we don't have to reconvene to opt out. You can speak for us, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. By passing this resolution this evening, you will direct me to do that.
Any other questions or comments?
I think Dr. Martin just said it best.
I think so too.
Yep.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Here, here. Okay, moving on. Trustees, we've been talking about this a little bit with the MASB strategic planning proposal. So I won't reshare everything that I've already said as you have a sense of what they would do. But I do just want to emphasize a couple of things. You know that the MASB's approach is one that is customizable to us here in the Tecumseh Public Schools. Every stakeholder in our community will have a meaningful voice in this process, and that will occur through face-to-face focus groups. It will occur through virtual meetings, electronic surveys, where we'll gather feedback anonymously from staff, community members, students, and parents, and it'll all be about the opportunities for us to improve our strengths, improve our opportunities, identify barriers, and then create a vision of the future. So you also know this process includes a number of deliverables, from conversations with board and administrators to focus groups to an actual 5-year trend analysis on a number of different areas that the MASB will do and share with us as a board, where we'll all come together with a day-long retreat and a planning team that is facilitated by someone from the MASB. The entire process does take 3 to 4 months. So starting now, should the board seek to do this, starting now would allow us to finish by late spring so that we can be ready to match resources and launch with this plan in mind for the fall of 2026. I'm bringing it up for discussion and a later vote this evening because if we want to meet that timeline, I need to get started with the MASB and get the ball rolling. So I'll pause here and open it up for discussion.
I just want to, again, at the annual leadership conference for MASB, there were several school districts that talked about how MASB kind of helped them turn around what they were doing. The keynote one is Saginaw, I think, but I think they've also worked with Flint and some others. And so I think this is my really third, maybe second. This will be my third strategic design. One was with an outside consultant who was not affiliated with school districts, and then the second was with the MASB. I found the MASB one to be highly organized, very standardized to the tools that they use, so it's helpful. I think that 5-year trend analysis, because of the tools that they use, we're able to get a lot of good information. I would say, a key thing though is community involvement and making sure that we get representation from kind of all of the grade levels and outside of the parent, family, community as we work through that. And I felt like MASB guided us through that, but with things like 31AA and not knowing what's going to happen with that money and some of the other challenges, one big one that we're going to talk about this evening, I can understand that a $10,000 bill may seem like a little stiff, but I also think that if you think about that, that's anywhere from, I think we're in year 3, so $3,300 a year to $2,000 a year from an amortization. So I think we've been moving in the right direction in a lot of ways, and so I think it's time to look at the results of those early moves and see what we can do forward. So I would put my support behind the MASB.
You answered an important question. I was thinking about this after our last meeting because we suggested about using someone else, and it sounds like we have the experience of both an MASB and then also an outside third party, and it didn't go as well, so that's good to know. Do you know how that first one, do you know how long it was? Was it a 2 or 3 year strategic plan, or if we're on our third one?
It was meant to be a 5-year.
Okay.
It was heavy in the first 2 years. Being frank, I think the consultant was picked because of an idea our superintendent had.
Okay.
And the superintendent understood that the consultant would push the discussion. I will tell you though, it was mainly faculty and staff in the meeting, and there were maybe 5 parents, and I was one of them. So I think from that perspective, and I would say it wasn't all faculty and staff, it was, in hindsight, faculty and staff that were supportive. And so I think, whereas going to MASB things and talking with school boards in different settings, MASB is kind of the standard I think most school districts in the state use.
I think it's a good experience to go through. When we did it before, we did have quite a few parents involved. The demographic that I would like to see more of are more senior citizens, since that's a large component of our community. And though there are key people that, they may not be as attached to the school as the parents, so they don't know what's going on. And I think that would be, just have some of those people that we could talk to come in and be part of that committee would be good. I mean, they might need to be recruited a little bit because they probably don't follow everything we do, and they don't, probably not big Facebookers or website people. But I think if they see what the intent is with this whole thing, it's definitely not wasted money. And if you want to get stakeholders and voters in this district involved, I mean, this is the way to do it, because everything's up there in black and white. We don't run this, the MASB does. We're just like the other people out in the audience.
Could we do a similar marketing campaign like we did for the sinking fund, Matt, where once we decide, we start getting it out there and broadcasting it?
Yep, absolutely. I was actually just thinking of that when Mr. Lewis mentioned senior citizens. My head went to how do we get the message out through Facebook posts, some short videos. I also just wrote down that I can get, because I'm a member of Kiwanis and the Central Business Association, and I go to those meetings regularly. I can tell those folks, and they will help me spread the word on this process.
And I think that's good, but I also think recruitment, as Greg said, I mean, I think we have to acknowledge that people don't always just show up to meetings even when they know that they're coming. And that group of, whether they're senior citizens or young couples or whatever it is, people who are part of the community but not directly attached to the school district, I think the pool is a great example of the interface here. We really do need that group to speak and voice their opinion because they vote too, and we should all be on the same page about the direction that we're trying to take things.
Since we're kind of talking about groups too, I think one of the things that might be an enhancement is maybe some discussion with the key universities or community colleges that our students end up going, or even vocational programs they might go into out of high school, to understand maybe what they're seeing as trends, what we could do better.
Was that a part of it at all with the last couple you were involved with? Because I think that's a really good idea.
I think we had gone to a lot of LISD type of seminars, and so we had kind of shared a lot of that, but I think it might be something interesting to hear. There's some emerging trends that maybe are concerning about graduates both out of high school and college from a kind of interaction standpoint that might be interesting to hear. And I think the other thing is Tecumseh has great businesses, but what we have to think about is if we want our students to come back as families, we have to think about what's a radius and what are maybe different levels of business that maybe we could get some feedback on about what they're looking at in the future, what kind of employment they might have, so that Tecumseh is a good place, a close enough place where they can get the kind of job they want to get, but they bring their family back here. So that might be just something else kind of to consider. I mean, many of us at this table are hiring managers or responsible for that sort of thing for corporations, but it's maybe helpful. Maybe it isn't being present at a meeting, but maybe it's some sort of surveying or something where we could get some information, or even, from WIN or some other state organization, probably MASB can get some data on that for us to understand.
Anything else regarding the MASB strategic plan proposal?
I'm excited about doing the strategic planning process. I think the output was extraordinary, and I think it's been used every year very well. I like the outline and the rigor behind MASB's proposal and process, and I believe the person facilitating it, if it's going to be the same person that presented at the other meeting.
Maybe.
Well, she's extraordinary,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
hopefully she would at least have some guiding hand behind that.
Yeah.
So I think she's really great, and I understand we'd be spreading costs over multiple years. I am just not comfortable approving any expense, even though I know you said you found money to kind of pull from other places, unless it's an emergency or it has an already seated home, because we have not yet seen, I'll call it our real budget for this year, the reworked budget. So I don't feel that we know where we're at today. So I don't know that $10,000 that's seated somewhere else can actually be pulled, because that might have to be pulled in another direction until we find that out. So once we understand where we're at financially, I would definitely be open to a proposal to approve. But until that point, I'm not comfortable approving any funds.
I want to comment on that, where the money thing comes from, because I actually don't agree with taking money out of the the funds for professional development for your office either, but that's because I think you guys should use those funds for professional development, and we should find that $10,000 that seems an appropriate cost for the service from another part of the budget. And that's not even to say, here, Matt, we want you to have more. It's that your development and your office's development is also an integral part of the district's operations. And I don't like the idea of hampering that for something which to me seems like a standard cost of doing business in this field. So that's my view on that.
Well, I tell you what, if we can't find the money, I'll get you somebody that can donate the 10 grand, so, guaranteed, so, there you go.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. I know a lot of people that will, so, yep. It needs to be done for the district, we gotta move the district forward, we can't wait, so, yep.
I'm in.
We'll put the hat out on the street if we have to, or the boot, as they say, so, yep, but we'll get her done, so.
Any other comments? Let's move on to Mr. Madison.
Good evening, trustees. So last meeting, we brought the structural reports on the community pool for you guys to review, and talked about that we would come back with some options on what we can do with that pool. So I have a team with me. I'm going to introduce them here in a moment and let them go through kind of what the projected options are. But I did want to take a minute and at least answer a question that was brought up the last meeting. Trustee Simpson, I know you had mentioned about coatings on the steel, what kind of any recourse, things like that. So we did dig in and find the original specifications on this building. So the original specifications did call out the American Institute of Steel Construction November 1978 specification standard. So that standard does say that generally, it says specification generally did not require shop paint for structural steel unless specified in contract. So we went back and pulled the actual original prints for that building and found in there under the structural steel section, it does reference that, and it also says that all steel work before leaving the shop shall have one good coat of shop paint. So it is, though we look at it now and we say it doesn't have a lot of coating. Coatings have changed a lot since the late 70s, so definitely I would say it's safe to say they built it to the standards of that day. So
What would be the standard of today? Is it the same?
it would be way more advanced than that, but I can't answer that because I'm not a structural engineer to tell you what those coatings are, but I can tell you there's a lot of advancements in coatings from 1978 to today. So for when this was built, under that code, it was built to the standard.
Josh? You're saying 1978, it was built in 88.
They went, that was the standard at
That
that
was the
time,
standard
was
through
the
that
19
whole
of,
time. Okay, okay.
November of 1978 standard was being used in the 80s there. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep. All right. And then for tonight, for the updates, I have with me George Gakan from Whiteman, and I also have Aaron Phillips from McCarthy and Smith. And Aaron here is going to kind of go through the update here on the pool and some of the options, and if we have questions, we'll be here to answer them.
Good evening, board. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for allowing us to speak tonight, and feel free to please chime in with any questions. I don't want to drone on and on. So, as Josh mentioned, last meeting, it was discussion of the pool room building should remain closed, and the a complete replacement of the structure was deemed as an option from Magnus Engineering. So what the project team was tasked to do is provide you with some options to move forward. That comes the hard part for us, right? So we've stepped in, we've partnered with Whiteman, and we're bringing 3 options. Not that these are the 3 or that there's some in between. There could be some in between. There could be some options that we're not thinking about, but these are the 3 that we're presenting tonight for conversation and discussion. The first option, so this is an overview of what we'll be discussing tonight. So option number one is select demolition, excuse me, and reconstruction of the existing natatorium. Now put an asterisk at the bottom of this. The basic intent of this would be to demo all of the building and basically maintain just the pool basin. There's a lot of caveats that could go with that and a lot of unknowns that could go with that. When we start taking out the steel, are the foundations in great shape, right, underneath the earth? The connection points to the foundations, those could be jeopardized. If and when new steel was erected, do those foundations and slabs meet the new load ratios, et cetera? So there's a lot of unknowns with this option, and we don't like unknowns when we're going into options, right? So thus the reason for the asterisk at the bottom. It could happen, but there's a lot of unknown costs that could come up, and I'll go over a little bit more of that when we get to this option. Number two is demolishing the existing natatorium and simply rebuilding the exterior of the middle school walls, right, to encapsulate the existing building, and the old natatorium space becomes a greenbelt area for future development. And then option three is perhaps a new natatorium at a new location. So let's deep dive into a couple of these different options, if we could, please. So this is option number one. Each option you'll see has relatively the same format. There's a hard construction element, so hard construction being actual physical construction put in place. There's a construction contingency to allow for the unknowns during a project, and typically that's 8 to 10%. There's indirect costs, and soft costs, in other words. So there's design fees, CM fees, reimbursables. There's general conditions, things like porta-johns and dumpsters, et cetera, that go into that. Typically that's around 25% of hard construction. And then we have other owner costs, FF&E, furnitures, fixtures, equipment, technology, utility fees. Are there other costs? We're putting a rate on this particular option of 5%. So let's walk through this a little bit. So again, option number one, we're demoing the existing structure as Magnus Engineering has signified that we need to do, and we're rebuilding around the existing basin, right? We have to demolish the existing structure. It's about 12,800 square feet. And I'll back up for a minute. When we look at these very high-level costs, at a high-level perspective, concept costs, we think in terms of cost per square foot, because we're not doing a takeoff per se at this point, just with the amount of unknowns that we have. So everything is really geared around cost per square foot. Demolition of the structure, about $40 a square foot. In this scenario, there's a lot of protection of the pool basin that would need to take place, building a structure over the basin, protecting the slab, protecting any functions that we can. There's a cost to that. We're equating that to about $30 a square foot of the pool basin itself. And then rebuilding the natatorium structure in full, basically the entire envelope and the inside, about $700 a square foot. And then we'll have a minimal amount of site restoration with perhaps utility work that gets damaged, rebuilt, the existing parking lot, et cetera, that will certainly have some damage throughout the course of construction. So all in all, hard construction, we're about $10 million. Again, we've covered a little bit about the contingency. That's 15% of hard construction in this scenario. That deals with some of the unknowns, not all of them. Indirect costs, 25%, and other owner costs, about 5%. So totaling this option is about $15 million. Any questions?
Construction contingency, that's just an average rate. It could be a little higher, it could be a little lower.
It's an average rate, right? So if it's not spent, you don't spend it, right? It's not anyone's money. It's your money. It's just allotted money for the what ifs. Correct.
He also said it was 8 to 10 as an average, and this is 15. So if you look at the other options, you put 10% there. So this one has higher risk due to the higher risk element.
Can we just, on that risk question,
Sure.
if as you're going through this process of, trying to protect the pool base, and if everything goes wrong with it, like roughly where would that land us cost-wise? Like,
yeah,
how
hard-
much would that add?
That's the big question, and we don't know, right? Does the basin get cracked during the envelope deconstruction, demolition? I don't know that. If ultimately the worst case scenario that could happen, right? The pool basin cracks, collapses in, I'm just making
Yeah.
stuff up, right? You're having to rebuild the basin anyways. Then we're back to the drawing board going, we should have completely demoed this and started from scratch.
'Cause
So-
I feel like at least some idea of what that cost would look like.
Sure.
It's hard to know, it's hard to think about this $15 million plan without some understanding of what the potential far end of it
Well,
is.
I mean,
So the-
that's the potential.
Yeah,
Well,
the
right,
closest
so I guess
is-
you go with the 28 million on a different site and say that's a reasonable guide.
Likely so, right? You'd
Okay.
be using, the caveat being though, if you use the same footprint, it would likely be a smaller footprint than what a typical natatorium that we're building now would be. This is quite a bit, not quite a bit, it's smaller than other new natatoriums being built. So it could be generally less cost, but relatively the same cost per square foot of a new natatorium.
yeah,
which is roughly that $1,000 a square foot.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
And I think one thing that we all need to consider is we've been kind of doing an iterative inspection process. The basin was also built in the late 80s.
Right.
And has not been fully inspected.
Mhm.
More than likely, we will lose the tiling, we will lose, so, I have a friend whose dad used to build these, so, we've already pulled all the water out of the pool. When you start to do things around a tiled basin, very often you can lose all of that. We don't know what the condition is of the basin fully, so, to me, the 15%, having managed construction projects before is reasonable for a retrofit.
Does this estimate include the mechanicals, or would that be additional?
Yeah, the concept cost includes mechanical type costs, right? Yep. New pool equipment. I think there's some salvaging of some equipment that we try. There's a newer boiler,
With the
but
Dextron and all that? Okay.
okay. Option number 2, please. So option number 2, demolishing the existing natatorium and just simply rebuilding the exterior wall. When you demolish that building, it opens up that exterior wall, the north wall of the middle school per se, and the east wall. So this is simply demolishing the building, rebuilding the wall so that you have a complete building. So again, 12,800 square feet at $30 a square foot. It's a little less because you're not trying to protect anything at that point. Rebuilding the middle school exterior envelope, there's about 4,500 square feet of wall envelope that would need to be built at roughly $260 a square foot. And then some light site restoration. You're backfilling the old pool basin, you're restoring the foundations and the site. So all that totals about 1.7 million. And then the other same soft costs associated with that hard construction. Construction contingency is a little less in this scenario because we know we're demoing the entire building, less room for opportunities to arise. Indirect costs are the same. And then in this scenario, we have zero costs associated with other owner costs, FF&E, you're not putting new furniture in, et cetera.
Can you explain the logic between option 1 and 2 for demolition as well as site restoration? It looks like there's purposeful differences.
There's purposeful differences, so the intent with option number 1 would be to try and maintain your foundations and your slab, some of your slab as much as you can. Option number 2, you're demoing everything.
Because there's so there'd be additional production for the foundation. Is that why you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And then what would be the difference in the site restoration between?
Generally speaking, you're just grading out, right? So with the site restoration, we're going to keep it as simple as we can, right? Is it just green space? Is there parking lots? That needs to be further developed.
Okay. So that's 100,000, but for option 1 it was 400,000. Why is it so much more?
Let's take a look. Right, so it's maintaining the existing foundation slabs, et cetera, where possible. When you do a complete demolition, right, the track hose can get on top of a slab, they can get on top of the foundations, pull everything down, completely eliminate it, no harm to the, you don't care about the existing foundations because they're coming out anyways, right? You're demoing those. On a more selective demolition, it's a higher cost because you're having to get into the building without driving on the slab, without driving on the foundation, so your stretch is greater. So thus, the cost of construction demolition would likely increase, is our perspective on that.
But the site restoration cost is because we would be doing some remediation to foundations or like the exterior of the basin, that sort of thing?
Correct. Correct. Site restoration on the reconstruction, you have sidewalks you're rebuilding, you have parking lot repair that you're underway with. So there's a lot more involved than just demoing the entire section of the building and making it grass, is our interpretation.
So
That makes
everything
sense.
is just a little bit more difficult when you're trying to maintain a site. So
Correct.
to use a very simple analogy, when you go to, if you talk to a builder and you talk about wanting to put hardwood floors in your existing home versus a new home, you're gonna find that the cost of an existing home is higher. I know this because I've gone through it. Because things aren't square, they're old, they're settled, they're all those types of things. The walls are already there, finishes are already there. So I'm not sure the 400,000 is totally appropriate because I would have to look at the details. But I think there should be, right, some difference between just tear it all down, fill it, grade it, and then we have to decide what we want to do with it, versus rebuilding the building basically to the existing footprint and the existing setup. So if you think about our building, you have the parking lot will probably be torn up or busted up enough that we have to redo it. The playground will have to be, that whole space and everything will have to be removed. All the landscaping will come out, all the sidewalks will come out. At the rear of the building, we have a lot of parking there that will probably have to be torn up and lost. So there's just, when you add on to an existing structure or you change an existing structure, the costs are just always a little bit higher than either a brand new build or a rip completely down, clean it up, and start back over. Then you kind of have, you could kind of take this 2.3 plus. Probably see some comparisons to option.
Yep, that's a good analogy. It's really, if we think about it in terms of a surgical approach with option one, it's more surgical than going in number two, broad brush, demo the whole building. And then option number three is somewhat self-explanatory. Having said that, there's probably a combination of option number 2 and number 3 that would want to take place. If you are removing the old building. Option number 3 provides for a new natatorium. As a placeholder, we put in 18,000 square feet on a 2-acre site. Roughly $1,000 per square foot for new construction and $800,000 per acre for development. Again, is that raw land, is it existing land, are there existing utilities, or they're not existing utilities? There's a lot of caveats in there. And then a construction contingency of 10%, and then same maintained indirect costs and other owner fees. So rounded, that comes to about 28 million.
Is there just a question on a building like this, a new construction, $1,000 square foot? Is there some kind of special requirements because it is a pool that requires extra cost?
There are. So natatoriums have very high-level functioning and very expensive mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Unlike a room like this media center, where it's basically walls, an HVAC system, and lighting. The amount of mechanicals that go into a pool with the filtration system, the basin itself is expensive. The finishes are typically more expensive with tile floors and locker rooms. The list goes on, right? When
So
you
it's
start thinking about
it's included in that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I was
That's
just thinking the shell of the building.
nope.
Okay.
Yep. This
Gotcha.
is all in, right? Start to finish. Yep.
Yeah, and I would say if we need more information about that, a go and see is always good. So, Dundee has 2 pools, an old one and a new one. Chelsea has an old one and a new one. When you go to those pools, they are very different. Their old pool is closer to ours, or if you wanna see an older pool, you go to Lincoln. You could go to Ipsy and look at their newly restored high school pool, which is closer to a newer natatorium. And they're doing some things with the Willow Run site. But you can, if you need to see the distinct difference, which some people do, you can go into those pools and you will notice a distinct difference almost immediately. So it's definitely so I think a question for the discussion. Do we have 2 acres where there was hopefully going to be an auxiliary gym on this site versus
An auxiliary gym on,
on the high school site? We had talked about an auxiliary gym. Is that area 2 acres?
I don't remember discussion.
Does that 2 acres, is that just the site, or is that including parking and things of that nature too?
That would be development. So raw land development. That would be parking lots, infrastructure, sidewalks, landscaping, etc.
Josh,
Couple
can
things
you,
on this
can,
I do want to clarify too is that though we're using, like there he has 2 acres, he also has 18,000 square feet. That is not the set specifications for this. This is just for discussion purposes. We may, if we decide this is an option and put out RFPs, you might decide 28,000 square feet, like a similar pool in our neighboring communities are building. And those numbers then go up accordingly. So these are very raw numbers to talk about basic pool construction, basic lot size. This is not quoted amounts. These are absolutely just for discussion based on square footage. So.
But is this square footage 8 lane? Is this like a
Competition
baseline
pool?
Square footage?
So this is based on 8 lane for natatorium only. So if you added additional locker rooms, you added bleachers, you added other things, your square footage is of course going to increase.
Wait, hold on, I wanna make sure I understand that. So the 18,000 square foot that we're looking at on that option 3 doesn't account for locker rooms?
It depends how big there's a lot of variables there. So like right now, our current pool is 12,000 square feet. It's slightly bigger than that. It's not as big as others in the area. So we're in that middle realm, because at that 18,000 square feet is not, a lot of them in our area, like I said, there's new ones being built right now that are closer to 27,000 square feet. So
Okay.
again, those would be options we'd have to look at depending on the path we went down, so.
Gotcha.
A question I have is if you go with new construction, how much more efficient, energy efficient is the new pool compared to what we have? Because I know there's gonna be more insulation on the ceiling, more spray on, but what about the rest of the construction that makes that? Are the mechanicals more up to date,
Yeah.
higher efficiency?
Yeah, you said a huge one. Roof insulation, lighting, LED lighting, the pool mechanical equipment itself. I don't know, you've done a small amount of work, I think, over the years, but new pool mechanical equipment itself is lower energy costs, et cetera. RTUs, dehumidification units, energy recovery units, all of those are much more efficient now than in years past. And
What's
they'd
the
be
lifetime on those now?
typically 15 to 20 years in a
Like
commercial
boilers,
application.
really.
Yeah, so it's it varies per equipment how often it's used, but definitely a much more energy efficient model now.
Okay. All right. Would you say they're 50% more efficient if you, would we pay half the cost in energy or 60% of the, well, it's gonna be more because it's gonna be bigger, probably.
Yeah, you want
Yep, that's a really good question. And everyone at home has bought a piece of like a TV and a refrigerator, and you're going, well, what's that got to do with what we're talking about here tonight? The Energy Star program has a thing called Target Finder. And what they do is they track energy usage of buildings, different building types across the entire United States. And based on the Energy Finder target, you should be able to get at least a 50% reduction in your energy use with a brand new building. Typically, depending on when we're doing the design work, we could go for a 75%. What that means is that the building that we're designing is 75% better than all the buildings that are currently out there. So if you look at, let's say, 50% and you double the size of the building, you shouldn't have any more cost in terms of the energy needed to run that facility. So it's almost like a break even. Now, if you go to 75%, you should see an additional 25% savings. And if you run that out over, let's say, how old is this pool now? 40 years? 40, 50 years? 30. And you're saving $10,000 per year compounded at 3%. That's some real money. Not only do we look at the energy code target finder when we're designing the building, but the codes have evolved over time since 1978, I think I heard. And they are much more stringent, and they had mentioned some of those things in terms of energy efficient equipment, as well as the level of insulation, and it continues to go on. So, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
The problem is it doesn't pay for it.
What's that?
The problem is the savings don't pay for it.
Right.
Yeah, so,
So I have a question kind of in that vein of that comment. Two of these options are not feasible without another financing option.
Correct.
And, so let's say that we moved forward either with option 1 or option 3 to continue to investigate that. What do we need to do to the pool today to maintain the safety and credibility of the site until we could go through the activities that we would need to go through for that funding mechanism?
That is something I'd have to get back to you on. I'd have to talk with our engineers. I will remind you, though, that we are in year 3 of the 2 to 3 years when that roof needs to come off there.
With a lot of snow expected.
Yep. So I would say that we don't have a lot of time, but to give you a distinct answer, I'd have to actually talk with the engineers and get that. But we are in that 3rd year right now.
Yeah, my opinion is that we need to understand that to make a decision that has the right information to the community about whatever decision we decide.
There was $2.5 million allocated as part of the sinking fund for this, is that correct?
There was.
How much of that have we spent to date? And maybe you don't have that.
I don't have that number, but I can get that for you. It would be just, the structural engineering and architectural costs, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Joe, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the next step after that?
Pardon?
What's the next step?
The
What are
next
we doing
step
next?
with,
From today? What are we?
we will get answers to these questions. We'll have more board discussion around the options that we have in front of us, and then we'll direct Josh to go out for requests for proposals, depending on where the board lands on what you would like to do next with the pool.
Okay. I think we should quickly and expeditiously obtain community input on this in various forms. We got some during the sinking fund process, but I think we need something more thorough.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think this comes back to the point we've talked about before, that, this is a community pool, and it's going to take community buy-in to pay for it, right? These are not get creative levels of money. right? We can't creatively come up with $28
The
million,
money's already in our
right?
budget,
So, you know, this is gonna require going back to the community and asking them to vote the money to do what they want done with the pool. You know, we've heard the public comment over the last couple meetings. There's obviously, you know, there's a great deal of support for the team. And I think, you know, as both a parent and a part of this board, you know, having the pool I think is important. But there's no magic either, right? The community has to say that they're willing to pay to do this. And so we need to think about in what form we're putting it forward, what we're asking them to consider, and then find out what it is they're wanting to pay for with respect to having a pool here in the community.
And I would say that this decision is kind of a major part of a strategic plan. So is there some way with the MASB proposal, if we go with it, if we vote tonight as a board to go with it, to utilize that to maybe help us get that input? I think ultimately the role of a school district is to educate their students, and all of these extracurriculars, including swim, I can speak personally to the impact to my own child, is really, really important. But there's a balancing act where we have to say, is this detrimental to the other 95% of the district activities? And I think the cost of a new pool, again, requires full community support.
Yeah.
And if we don't get the community support, if we put it out there and we don't get it, then as a board, we need to make decisions very quickly, because this building is degrading every single day, every single snowfall. This building is degrading, and, you know, I personally am a little dicey about this weekend because we're gonna thaw and then we're gonna freeze again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, with the steel in the condition that it's in, it's kind of and that it's been somewhat demoed already is kind of a concern
Yep.
for me.
Yeah, and I guess to that end, it feels to me like beginning that process probably needs to be ahead of the getting MASB here too. I mean, I think we really need to kind of quickly be figuring out what it is that community members are willing to be supportive of, so we can move. Because, you know, as you're saying, as Josh has said, we're to the far end of the window of safety on that building, and you know, we could find ourselves in a situation where we're adding to cost because a roof collapsed or there's some other issue that comes up. So I think you know, the question is, as I look at it, is, well, what would we put in a bond proposal to put forward to vote on, right? And we need to find a way to get some input on what the community would like to see in that bond proposal as quickly as we can.
So a couple thoughts.
I think that's paramount. And what Vice President Davis said, that we're here primarily to educate kids. When we had the bond proposal in 2020 or 21, the idea of building the new middle school was to get to where we had 3 buildings. That didn't pass. That statement was, we don't want new middle school. Well, the 2 buildings that are out there are, I'll do the math real quick, 55 and 67 years old still, respectively. They need a lot of work. I mean, they were remodeled in 2002 when this building was under completion as part of that initial bond. But with the closing of the other 2 schools, they're cramped for space. As much as I'd like to say, yeah, let's build a new pool or let's rebuild the pool, we got education problems too. I mean, having those buildings over there, having a 4-8 building, I mean, I'm not stealing his thunder, but I was superintendent, we had 5 grades in there. It's a zoo getting 5 grades of kids through lunch. They start eating 10:30 in the morning or roughly thereafter, and they're going till almost 1 o'clock. It's not ideal. I mean, it works, but it's not ideal. We've got, I mean, 2 of the buildings in this district are older than I am, so they're aged, and they take more money than this building, based on age, than the other ones we have. I mean, the newest, after this building, the newest one's built in 1970. They've been maintained pretty well, but things wear out. I mean, you have an older home, you got more money you're gonna have to put into it to keep it up and running. And building a pool at the sake of, or sacrifice of educational buildings, to me it's not the right maneuver. I'd love to do something with a pool, but I can't, in my mind, say, let's go ahead and spend $15 million, and knowing that we've got, especially Tecumseh Acres, needs some work. It's not falling apart, but let's not let it fall apart and then decide we gotta do something with it.
Right. So I know before when we had talked about pools, there was some discussion, I think, Josh, you had mentioned that if it is a competitive pool, that there are some grants available. So I think we need to get some information on that. We need to get some information on what fundraising opportunities there could be. To your point, absolutely. Our job is to educate students. Of course we want our community pool. Everyone wants our community pool, but we are going to have to find a way to work with the community to do that. It sounds like some town halls might be in order, kind of what we did for the bond proposal. The other thing I would like to bring into that discussion, because it's been a point that people haven't understood, it's, what is it, we get a $250,000 for taxes for the pool. That was simply designed just to pay the pool operator and to buy the chemicals. That was never sufficient. It was never enough to run the pool. That has been coming out of our general fund, the fund that we use to educate students. And I think that needs to be a part of the discussion, is this can't be a burden of the district. It has to be a community thing. I want it to happen, but it's gonna have to be a community thing.
So this probably costs more money to do the survey and that, so I think you understand your marching.
I do. And trustees, I had originally interpreted Trustee McGee's question through a smaller lens, focused only on here. And given this discussion, I know where you're coming from. Now, certainly this would be a major community engagement effort that would start with the history of the pool and educate the community around it, the pool, its current status, what we currently know and know we need to do, and the timeline on which we need to do it. With then, what are the options that we want to put forth? What would the community support? What might it not? And just put it out and collect that feedback as a part of our decision-making process. So, yes on all of it.
Okay, let's
Just-
move on to action items. Oh, go ahead, Darren.
Just real quick, on Tecumseh Acres, we do have about 2.1 million of the sinking fund applied to that, right? To,
I can't hear you.
I said for the sinking fund, we have about $2.1 million that we've passed for the Tecumseh Acres repairs. Is there more above and beyond that? I know it's not
No.
part of this, but okay.
No.
I just wanted to make sure that we're.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd also just like to say thank you to the engineers who were here tonight and took our questions.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you for being prepared.
Okay, on to action items. Section 31AA funding.
Got a lengthy one. Whereas, Public Act 15 of 2025 amends the State School Aid Act, Section 31AA, MCL 388.1631AA, to allocate funding for fiscal year 2025-2026 to support school safety and student mental health initiatives, as well as to provide certain competitive grant funding. To receive 31AA funding, the district must agree to receive the funds in the form and manner established by the Michigan Department of Education and either formally opt in or seek a competitive grant. And as a condition of receiving either type of 31AA funding, the district must agree in advance that in the event of a mass casualty event as defined in MCL 388.1631 AA. 1, the district will be subject to and comply with a comprehensive investigation following such an event. And 2, the district will waive any privileges that may otherwise protect related information from disclosure and litigation challenging the legality and enforceability of the privilege waiver. Requirement is currently pending, and the opt-in deadline for 31A funding was on or around December 4th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. The failing to opt in by the opt-in deadline would have caused the district to lose eligibility for 31AA funding. And the respective courts have ordered the school districts that opt in by the opt-in deadline have the right to rescind their prospective opt-ins by providing notice to MDE no later than December 30th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m., as may be subject to further extensions in the form and manner established by MDE. And Megan Way, Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, submitted to the district's opt-in form to MDE by the opt-in deadline to preserve eligibility for 31AA funding. And the board has been fully advised of the legal and practical implications of the privilege waiver requirement, including its potential effect on attorney-client privilege and other applicable privileges. And the board desires to ratify the authorized official's submission of the opt-in form and to preserve the district's ability to rescind if the privilege waiver requirement remains in effect. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby ratifies the authorized official's submission of the district's opt-in form to MDE by the opt-in deadline solely for the purpose of preserving eligibility for the 31AA funding and only on a conditional basis as provided in the resolution. Submission of the opt-in form shall not constitute a present waiver of the attorney-client privilege or any other privilege. The district's conditional opt-in shall be automatically rescinded without further action of the board unless on or before the rescission deadline the legislation removes substantiative amends or otherwise eliminates the privilege waiver requirement such as that acceptable of 31A funding, would not require a waiver of attorney-client privilege or any other applicable privilege, or a court order of competent jurisdiction rules that the privilege waiver requirement is unlawful, unenforceable, or otherwise not applicable to the district. If neither A nor B occurs by the rescission deadline, the superintendent of schools or designee shall notify MDE in the form and manner required by MDE, and no later than the rescission deadline and the district's opt-in is rescinded. If the privilege waiver requirement remains in effect and enforceable as the rescission deadline, the superintendent of schools or designee shall have no authority or obligation to accept 31AA funding. Nothing in this resolution shall be construed as a waiver of attorney-client privilege or any other applicable privilege. The district's participation in the opt-in or rescission process shall not be construed as a waiver of the board's or district's rights to challenge the legality or enforceability of any condition imposed under MCL 388.1631AA or related administrative guidance. If after the rescission deadline, the privilege waiver requirement is removed, amended, or invalidated, the board may take further action as is deemed appropriate to pursue 31AA funding consistent with applicable law. This resolution does not apply to any mass casualty event occurring prior to the opt-in deadline. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution be the same are hereby rescinded.
Second.
We're not gonna make her read it again.
Another reason why I could never be an attorney. All right,
Do I have to sign this?
it's been motioned and approved, I'm shorten this, that we have already opted in for 31AA funding with this exclusionary lawsuit, and by December 30th, Matt has the authorization to, at the last second, if they decide to still try and take away our attorney-client privilege, then he can rescind that for us.
That's what I said.
No, boy, it was a lot of words. Okay. Roll call vote. Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Please tell me the next two are a lot shorter.
They are.
All right.
I move to approve the MASB strategic plan proposal as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the MASB strategic plan proposal. Any questions for anybody before we begin? Sorry, I didn't ask on the last one. I didn't want any questions. Roll call vote. Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Nay.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
I move to accept with thanks and appreciation the donation of $1,000 from MEC to the esports high school team.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the donation to Tecumseh High School Sports from the Midwestern Energy Company. I can't remember what the C is for. Communications, sorry, thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. On the consent agenda,
I move to approve the consent agenda, which includes minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting of November 24th, 2025.
Second.
been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, minutes from the regular board meeting of November 24th, 2025. Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
There is no superintendent's report tonight. What's that? Oh, sorry. That was just,
Chair
Uh,
votes.
my apologies. Go ahead.
You have to vote.
Oh, I vote. That chair votes aye. No superintendent's report, right?
Correct. No superintendent's report tonight.
Items scheduled for next agenda.
Certainly, trustees, we will be back together on January 12 of 2026, where we will have a number of good news items, and we will start that meeting with the 2026 election of officers.
When are we planning to have the budget discussion?
The budget amendment,
Yes.
hopefully, the second meeting in January.
Okay. And will that also accompany an explanation
Yes.
for last year?
It will say more about explanation of last
So
year.
we had talked about doing a bridge, at least a
Yes.
limited bridge and explanation.
Yes.
So the end of January.
Yes.
You ready for motion?
Oh, on that, yeah, sorry. I thought, I didn't see what. Okay, I flipped page over. Okay, adjourn to closed session.
I move to go into closed session to discuss a matter exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session. Roll call vote, trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Are we going to your office?
Okay, we are going into closed session at 7:17.
Of 3 people here for the December board meeting, you know.
Okay.
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 Okay. can I have a-
Wait. Let her get to.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to go back into open session?
We just come
No,
out.
you just called
Oh,
special.
Yeah.
Okay, we're now back into open session at 8:52 PM. Board member, comment, discussion.
I have 2 items. One is, again, I hope in January with our organizational meeting, we could have a,
We do, actually, we do have one motion.
oh, we do have.
We have a
Yeah.
motion to approve the superintendent's
Try to get out.
evaluation.
I was like, wait a minute, I missed something.
It's not on the agenda.
It is. Well, it's on mine. Coming out of closed session from our evaluation of Mr. Hilton, I move to approve the superintendent's evaluation with a rating of effective.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the evaluation of Matt Hilton as effective. Roll,
Can we explain what that is?
Yes, I would like to, actually.
Okay,
So, recently, MASB had updated the way that they did their evaluations, whereas we used to give scores of 1 to 4, it is now only 1 to 3, with the highest rating being effective now versus highly effective as the way it used to be. So please don't misunderstand that we're not dinging him in any way, shape, or form. Highly effective is just not an option for us any longer. Effective is the top scoring, and out of the grading of 1 to 3, he received a 2.95 out of 3.
Thank you.
That's very good, thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Can I do the roll call?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Okay.
Now we're on to board member comments and discussion.
I have two quick ones. One, as we move into the kind of organization meeting in January, I'd like to ask that we all consider that budget committee of the whole, as we talk about committee placements, et cetera. The second thing, and Mr. Hilton and I have had a little bit of back and forth about this, but we've had a lot of discussion about early college credit, AP, dual enrollment, there's middle college, CTE. Several of the CTE programs at the LISD Tech building also result in early college credit. So, I talked to a few constituents. It was kind of unanimous, like it would be helpful to understand with kind of the cost of college and the crisis of that, for parents to understand kind of upfront. And I think they do it in the freshman seminar that parents come to, but maybe more of a piece of paper or with the career board, that sort of thing. Here are the 4 ways that you can gain early college credit. And what is the financial mechanism, and what are the pros and cons to the high school experience for that. Middle college has some, pros and cons. All 4 have some sort of impact to their experience in high school. But kind of providing that and kind of those 4 pillars too. Like if you look at the CTE course catalog, it says they're accepted by Siena Heights, Adrian College, and someplace else. It's not all colleges. So I think that's just something to provide to parents and scholars to help them understand what's available to them. Because I also know, talking to my daughter and her friends when they were in the 8th grade on the BC trip, they had some confusion. And so I just think that anything we can make clear, the better.
A one-pager of
Yeah.
sorts.
Yeah,
So
it's a good idea.
that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Since this is my last meeting as board president, and the only reason why did I want to be board president? Because I didn't want to be anything before, because Tony wanted me to do it. He said, you need to do this. You dragged me into this shit so I can be on the school board. So you at least need to go sit in that chair for 1 year and see what it's like. It was pretty good until the wheels came off there in the fall, but whoever has the gavel next, starting next month, it won't be me, but I'll be cheering for somebody and delighted that you took over. However, I did learn something when I took the class to become a board president. And it's that after you evaluate your superintendent, if he is at the expiration of his contract or her, you want to get them retained as soon as you can, because starting in about 90 days from now, vacancies for superintendents are going to come out. And what happens is people who aren't even necessarily looking, but haven't been offered a contract, see $20,000, $25,000, sometimes $30,000 raises being tossed about. And I put together some comparable salaries for people in Lenawee County. I also looked at Chelsea. Of course, I had that brainstorm after I got this copy. And their guy makes $188,000. So I did this I had this brainstorm in September, and that's right when the wheels came off. But I made Matt aware that I was going to try and get something over the contract, and I said, I've we had the problems with the budget. I said, I don't know what we should do this. He said, we shouldn't do anything with it until we figure out what the heck's going on. I did talk to Troon. This is something I put together, with them, their recommendation. And it's a proposed contract to extend Matt 3 years, beginning July 1st of '26. I think it's reasonable when you look at what other people are paying their person based on what we got. My editorial on all this is, I've been through, I think he is a 6th superintendent, 5 when I worked here. Everybody has their strengths, people have their weaknesses. I gotta rate him the best of the 6, or 5, 6, I guess if you include the,
Yourself?
Yourself?
That's what I was saying.
No, I think 6 out of 6, but, that's my, you guys will take a look at this, if you have any questions right now, you can ask me, but this will be, it's right now, it's up for discussion, and then whoever the board president is next month, doesn't have to be the first meeting, but sometime probably next month, should take action on that. I know he doesn't like sitting here when you talk about him, but I didn't wanna do this and didn't wanna excuse him and didn't wanna talk about it in closed, it really wasn't appropriate for closed session. That's, again, this would have happened just a little bit earlier or a little smoother maybe if we hadn't had the problems we had, but we did, and he's overcome that, and everything else we've had to run uphill against. Getting that sinking fund, we've never had one. We never even asked for one, ever. It was all set up by his predecessor. He comes in and gets the thing passed. And it's his boyish charm and good looks, I'm sure, that gets him through. It's just physical skills, it's not any type of educational or academic skills that gets it done for him. It's just good. Oh, and his wife, who used to work for the or the Herald and wrote for the Home Front. She's the best ambassador he's got. So think that over. Any questions or comments? You know, you can voice them now, or if you guys want to get out of here, because we've been here for 3 hours, I fully understand that. But thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody, standing by me while I fumbled and stumbled through this. And I think it's a good board to do.
Thanks for putting this together.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, I didn't do it for him because he used to be my neighbor and moved out, and I don't like him anymore. But it's just something we have to do, in my opinion. There's a shortage, like you heard Rod when he came in here, and I know he's kind of full of hot air, but I mean, even the other people from the MASB have said that there's a lot of openings, and there's not necessarily a lot of great candidates for these positions because they are tough. I mean, I know that from just sitting in it for 7 months, and it's like you can't, I probably had the worst time to ever be here, but you can't hardly win for losing, I mean, you walk in and people don't like you from the get-go. I mean, it's just because of what your name is.
So 2 things. One, thank you for your service here, Greg. This has been a good year. You've done a great job. I appreciate your leadership, and I certainly appreciate putting that together. When we brought Matt on, and this was your first superintendency, and so, your pay was a little bit commiserate with that, but you have knocked it out of the park, and I definitely think that, that we need to follow your recommendation there, Greg.
I concur. Yeah, absolutely. So I think you've done a fantastic job. So better than I thought you would do.
Thank you.
That's actually
And I thought you were going to do pretty well, but you've done really well. I'm
Tim
serious.
Simpson about you,
Yeah.
when you applied, that actually is a huge compliment, because it was already a pretty high.
Okay.
Well, I remember as we went through the process, we had the meeting here with the public, and, I felt you were the right candidate. I was so impressed with everything, and we were reading through the pros and cons, and somebody had written, our strengths and weaknesses, whatever it was, and somebody had written as a con, just one thing, can we really afford this guy? And I thought, okay, it's not just me. Other people are seeing what I'm seeing too, and that gave me a lot of confidence that this is the right choice. And I've not doubted that since. You've been exceptional. I think you have put a face to the district for the community.
Absolutely.
And that was essential. I would absolutely support the contract stuff. I think you're the person I would like to see in this job going forward.
I think now it's, can we afford to lose him?
Right, yeah, I mean, it's, we have the leadership we need right
Yes.
now. That is my opinion.
Thank you.
I think what I want to say is this is my first time going through the superintendent evaluation, and I did enjoy it. I thought it's really nice to hear from other folks' opinions, thoughts, of what's going on, and what I think we can all agree to. We came out all shaking our head like, yep, we all feel very positive. Looking back, the things Matt has had to deal with as not only a first-time superintendent, but coming into to what I feel is the strongest district in the county, but we've had some tragedy, we've had some financial issues, we've had a lot of things that just came up, and I will say the sign of a good leader is calmness, and I felt like the district always felt calm. We never felt panicked, we never felt like the sky was falling, and I think that is the important part of a leadership, is keeping everybody calm, making sure we got in the right hands, and knowing that things are going to come up, but we're going to deal with it. And I hope that the public hears this and understands that we do have a good person in place, but the most important part is you've handled everything with great calmness, great organization, and I appreciate it. I know the district should.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Really great leadership and just exceptional. So I really appreciate your efforts here. I agree with everyone, and I don't want to take too much time. But I also do want to maybe make your job a little bit easier as far as making sure that we're all on the same page as far as expectations. And I don't know that we have done that for you as far as outline goals and making that more concrete. So I think getting that in a line in addition to compensation will help, you focus your efforts where everyone thinks they should be, rather than trying to guess. I'm playing a guessing act all the time. So if we can do that as soon as possible and then tie that into KPIs and reporting so that everyone's on the same page, it's very visible, and you always know what the score is. I feel like maybe you haven't known what the score is. You're just kind of trying to do your best and producing with excellence, but it shouldn't have to be a guessing game either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We're good? All right.
I'll make a motion then to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been motion second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 9:06 hours.
We get overtime pay for this one.
We're ahead of what I thought.
No, I
figured it was gonna be a 3 hour.
I'm pretty happy with it.
For this meeting, I thought I told my wife it's an hour long, so I could go forever.
Yeah, because with that evaluation, you never know how it'll unspool,
That's yours.
You guys have a good night.
Yeah, you too.